I know in the past we've had the issue of we put together a national program, get a good rate, and then local JCC would take it to their local donor who did the same thing and beat them for the price. So we want to try and take a totally different tack here and create these partnerships and get to service those 1.5 million people. I think, there's the cost of living increase and so on. Maybe 1.5 million needs to go up by 3% or something like that. It's a new year. As you know, we have our Strategic Action Fund because it's there for programs that Jerome identifies, opportunities that it identifies, that gives us the ability to immediately go into it without having to raise money and then do it, but we have it available. And so we have another one of those coming up, so I'd like to call on Jerome to introduce Brian Siegel, who's the CEO of the JCC of Metropolitan Detroit, for the next segment.
Good afternoon. I can begin by expressing my gratitude to so many of the people in this room who made it possible for us to think strategically and creatively by providing me with access to those resources that we have known as the Strategic Action Fund. We have tried to use those funds judiciously. We have tried to use those funds prescriptively. And this afternoon I want to propose the next, I think, very compelling and worthwhile use of those funds. You should all have received in the preparatory materials for this meeting the equivalent of what you now have in front of you on your tables, which is an expansive description of JLife, which is the object of our attention. This is an initiative that has grown up in Detroit with significant partnership by the Montreal Jewish community and the Montreal philanthropic community, and that Gary and I had a chance to get a close-up look at when we were in Detroit for JCC Maccabi this summer. And we found it sufficiently compelling that we believe there is a decision to be made to make an investment today, and our hoped-for outcome of this segment is that this board will choose to authorize the expenditure of up to $50,000 as an investment from the Strategic Action Fund into the program that I hope, again, you've read about and that you're about to hear about at greater length. I want to plant the seed with you that as we have talked about the 5 major building blocks, the one you have heard least about from me in the last 15 months is the data and information building block. That's what this is about. So with that as a frame, I think that's important for you to know. It's also going to be important for you to know that even once this is authorized, assuming you choose to endorse, we will still be sitting on in excess of $200,000 in available resources for strategic actions that remain to be identified and invested in, hopefully in the months and perhaps year or two ahead, so as we continue to see this as a great strategic opportunity for the association. I'm very happy to introduce Brian Siegel, who has become an invaluable partner and ally and teacher from the field. Brian began his career in the JCC world as a lay leader and a prominent one in the city of Detroit. He is an accomplished entrepreneur and business leader, and he has brought that business acumen to the JCC of Metropolitan Detroit, which is really enjoying a renaissance relative to its impact in the community and its significance in the field. Brian is a unique professional leader in the field on the basis of his background and professional experience, and I am very pleased and proud to invite him to speak with us this afternoon about JLife. Brian.
So note to self, next time I don't need a tie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm specifically giving authority to JCCA to invite me to New York the next time it's a fair weekend of 65 degrees. Anytime.
In January.
In January, right, in January. Jen and I talked about how to talk about JLife for 20 minutes. So most of the people in this room don't know me. A few who do know that I can't talk about anything for 20 minutes. Most things take about an hour. But we have I think a very powerful PowerPoint, and we have a very comprehensive website called JLife.app. So if today's presentation feels thinner than you would like it to be, there are resources for you to get a more complete picture. But what we decided was that it was more important that we show you a brief video to give you an idea of JLife at 10,000 feet and have space for questions and answers. On some level, it's a very simple concept, but it raises all sorts of questions. And this PowerPoint does an excellent job of addressing those. So we are going to do the best we can within the time that we have. So I just want to give you a little bit of background as to how this evolved, because I'm proud of it. So I was hired as the CEO in Detroit years ago. We were in the middle of a very difficult turnaround. And we were given the opportunity to dream about what our JCC in Detroit, because it's all local, what applies in Detroit may not apply to other places. But for us, we are embarking on a long-term change in what the JCC does in Detroit. From a real estate paradigm where we provide safe space to something we refer to as a collaborative, programmatic paradigm where we try and bring our programs to people where they want to consume them over a period of time. So the very center of our 7-part strategic plan called Sum, which means contract. So in our contract to grow strategic plan, in the center of it sat an idea called JLife, which was a platform like OpenTable or MindBody to essentially reduce the friction for people to engage in world-class programming in our community. So I remember going into the office of the CEO at our federation and pounding my fist on the table, as I want to do, and said to Scott Kaufman, this is the big idea. What would it mean if we can move the needle on participation by reducing the friction to engagement substantially? Conversely, what does it mean if we don't do this? And thirdly, what would it mean if someone else controlled the data? And I think it was a powerful case. To Scott's credit, our federation took up the charge. I don't want to take too much credit. We were more the inspiration. So much has happened since then that is under Scott Kaufman's and our friends in Montreal's purview. So our JCC is not the owner of this project. We are a key participant and partner with our local federation who really took up this project. So that's where it started. And with that, I want to show you a brief video.
Jewish communities that were once close-knit and concentrated within a few city miles are now disconnected and geographically dispersed. Seismic changes in technology have altered the way that we communicate, and today's Jewish organizations must compete in the attention economy against an onslaught of modern brands and content. As a result of these trends, individuals are less active and engaged in Jewish life, and organizations struggle to connect with their audience. Introducing JLife, an app and web platform that will reconnect individuals with Jewish life. Operating like OpenTable, MindBody, and other user-centric apps, JLife will make it orders of magnitude easier to discover, share, and register for events and activities. By learning each individual's specific interests, JLife curates a personalized feed of content. JLife makes it easy to share events with friends on any digital platform. Users can also RSVP and securely pay for tickets within the app. They can also follow specific organizations, as well as integrate with their existing calendar. JLife empowers organizations to reach their constituents with seamless and effective marketing. Administrators can quickly post their events on the JLife platform, as well as to other social media channels. JLife simplifies the registration and check-in process at events using QR codes. Organizations can access useful data insights to help them improve future programming and make more effective planning decisions for their community. JLife increases Jewish participation and engagement, and this strengthens identity, builds community, and increases philanthropy. As individuals navigate their unique Jewish journey, JLife enables organizations to share data in a manner that is transparent, voluntary, and secure. JLife abides by two guiding principles: collaboration across the community and user-centric design. To ensure that JLife addresses the needs of users, we will continue to work collectively with local Jewish organizations. We've also hired a world-class design team to create an engaging and intuitive experience. Individuals and community leaders are getting excited about JLife due to its potential to make a transformative difference in our community. JLife will be launched, tested, and refined in Detroit and Montreal due to their vibrant and cohesive Jewish communities. After this beta testing phase, JLife can be rolled out to other Jewish communities as well, and doing so will give the local convening organization a tremendous value add to their entire community. We are committed to ensuring that JLife will be a dynamic and truly meaningful solution to the challenge of strengthening Jewish connection and engagement in local communities.
So I realize this is 10,000 foot. There are 100 questions. Like I said, I have copies of the PowerPoint. I can send you a link to JLife.app. So there's so many things we can talk about that this brings up. I want to bring up just a couple of points before we open it for discussion. So this idea was hatched, and we decided in Detroit to convene and invite people to come to a meeting about this concept. And what we found, so you have the convening organization. In our town, it's our federation. I know in some towns, it's a JCC. In our town, federation is the right group to convene the group. So we invited 44, and we got 40 people to show up. By the second meeting, the entire community had agreed to participate. They don't do that easily, right? So you can't get, it's like herding cats, you can't people get to agree on anything. And it's only when their self-interests align so powerfully. And what we found is that everybody is having the exact same problem. So if you imagine that JLife is adopted by the majority of the community, I often think of this. When OpenTable, someone sat in a room with OpenTable and said, we're going to build an app, and all these restaurants are going to sign up, and they're going to be able to make reservations. And some cynical investor said, and they're going to have to pay for this? And someone's going to have to go out and sign up every restaurant? Are you out of your mind? How long will this take to get to a critical mass that we could possibly deliver to the customer? In our situation, this may not be the case everywhere. In Detroit, that happened in a month. So imagine all these organizations agreeing to use this platform. Now, the end user can go onto the app and see all the programs in the community. If you look at the purpose from our perspective on JCCs, our job is to build community through programming. Whether it happens at a temple, or whether it happens at Federation, or happens in our JCC, is not as important as that it happens and that people get the information, can quickly sign up and engage. So this idea is an engagement tool, it's a collaboration tool, it's a friction reducing tool. I'll give you one more little anecdote. And I guess it's a bad reflection on me. So I get my Starbucks every day using the app. One day the app's down. I'm flipping out and driving around the block. I just won't go back and get at the convention. So I bring this up, this is relevant because what happens is when people get used to reduced friction environments, their tolerance for high friction environments goes way down. And I'm going to tell you, I got angry. I got angry that I couldn't get my coffee the way I wanted. We can't afford as a movement to do that. Next, we learned that while we were going through this, our local Jewish news was also considering this. And we got scared. What happens if Eventbrite comes in and does this? So Eventbrite is a massive event organizing engine who would love to be in the community building business. And then they get first to market, they do it elegantly, they do it with public money. And guess what? We will all sign up because we'll need to do it. And then someone else will have and control the data. That's really dangerous too. So lastly, from my standpoint, if I could have done this as our JCC alone, I think there would have been a great case to do that. So I come with a little bit of mud on my face, because in some ways I would have loved to have seen this be solely a JCC concept, but I think it's okay. Because the real idea, the real generous idea, is that we're all here to build community. So if we do this correctly, the JCC, because we're the largest provider of programming, will sit at the center. There'll be more programming, better attended programming. People will get it where they need to see it. From our JCC standpoint, it's grotesque the amount of money we spend on mail pieces, right? And here, in the fall of this year, the intention is every synagogue in our town, temple in our town, will provide all their tickets through this app. The JCC alone touches 51% of our community. We expect within a very short period of time to have everybody engaged in JLife in the Detroit community, the Montreal community. So, what does that mean from a marketing standpoint? What does that mean to the money we're spending on a variety of things? So, 10,000 feet, we can talk for hours. That's kind of the long and short of my presentation. I'd like to open up for questions. Yes?
Just curious, is this like a gift to the JCCA or local communities? Could you go backwards and talk
Sure.
about just that who owns it?
Yes.
The economics?
So it's a tremendous amount of time when you're dealing with technology concepts. And what was agreed is that Montreal and our Federation to Detroit would be essentially the operating partners of this. And it will essentially be owned by those organizations. The intention of it is not to use it as a profit-making vehicle. The intention is to roll it out to communities, to have essentially a board that will govern its application. You know, it gets a little scary if it's crazy successful. We've wrestled a great deal with that. We don't know how exactly to answer that question other than I believe in the heart and soul of our Jewish Federation, Detroit, Montreal, and the donors who are essentially, including JCCA if it sees so fit, raising $3 million, an initial tranche, to do this in the very best first-class way. And the only shared goal is to grow Jewish community. I believe that all the major donors are aligned with that idea. But I think it's a fair question that we've spent a great deal of time wrestling with, that success can breed some concerns that it's all handled the most appropriate way. It's a lot of power if it works. Yes?
This may be in the weeds, but would it be possible for some entity to become the credit card processor within the app so that all the profits could become recycled back out to the community as opposed to paying credit card fees?
Well, like I said, if like I think you're in the business, if you're an entrepreneur, of dreaming of the biggest dream would be that this becomes a predominant platform for Jewish engagement in North America, potentially the world. That sounds crazy, and maybe it'll never happen. There's 100 reasons it won't happen, but if it did, there's a great deal of collective value The short term is that we don't really want to be talking about selling it as an advertising vehicle or anything like that. The goal is to build a world-class product that is focused on the user experience and the organizational experience. So if you're familiar with Eventbrite, they do an outstanding job of making it easy, intuitive for an event organizer to establish an event. So if you look at the MVP for this product, the guys who are building it have never done anything like this. So I would say there's maybe 1,000 hours spent on this MVP, all the way down to, can the app send out donation letters based on the event automatically? You know, just really, really, really down to granular stuff. Issues like marketing opportunities, branding opportunities, all those things frankly scare the organization at this time. So their principles are that we are not looking to monetize this, we're looking to grow Jewish community, and ultimately success would bring up a lot of interesting both opportunities and risks, the heart and soul of the company. Lana, go ahead.
So, you know, this is the second time I've seen this.
Yeah.
I think it's got a lot of opportunity. I'm not quite clear what the $50,000 request is. Is that just venture capital seed money? Or is that something that provides something to JCCs? And then I have tons of practical questions at the end, but what is the $50,000 request?
So we decided not to treat this like a venture deal. So we were looking for grantors who believed in our vision. My feeling and my pitch to Jerome was, we cannot afford, I'm talking about from wearing my JCC or JCCA hat, we cannot afford not to be at the table at this time. I mean, we could not do it, right? But I think it's really, really important that Daron and JCCA and whoever from the field wants to be engaged has an opportunity to engage. And I felt that an investment by JCCA as a grant, not as an investment, as a grant into this community building project was very important to be seen as an initial stakeholder and at the table. So, and once again, I don't want to sound like I'm talking for me. I'm involved, but this is really the collaboration between Federation in Montreal and in Detroit. They are creating an advisory board. They're going to invite Daron, or who Daron selects, to sit as an ongoing participant in the discussion on all of these major issues. And frankly, my opinion is that JCCs, the real goal of JCCs, and frankly why it's called JLife, I like the way it fit with our logo and everything else, is that I think we are, when we look at what a center means 20 years from now, being the center, at the center of all the programming that goes on in the Jewish world is where the JCC should sit. That's maybe a little from my own selfish perspective, but I think the more we can do to engage JCC as a thought leader in JLife on the chance that this blows up is better for everybody. I don't know if that answers that fully.
So like Lynn, I have a whole bunch of sort of huge questions I'm not going to ask you. But I do want to ask, so like Open Table or like Uber or like anything else.
My body might be the best.
Right, my body. When you go into a new community, how do you, what is the plan to even alert the community and people to actually use the app and everything? Is
Right.
it all word of mouth? Because you're going to the community at this level for buy-in to
Right.
upload their data, but what's the other part of it?
So this is the way I see it happening. It's going to roll out in Detroit and Montreal. And there are going to be glitches. There are going to be problems. There's just nobody who's rolled out anything like this where there aren't. And you're going to see in those towns whether this momentum and value proposition happens. The value proposition to the end user, the value proposition to the organizing groups like JCCs or temples or synagogues, and the convener organization, in our town, the Federation. If it works, I think that other federations are going to see this as an opportunity to to galvanize Jewish community growth and will want to become beta test site 3 or 4. But so much depends on the elegance of that rollout and the impact. I think that if it works, we will have an issue of how quickly we can roll it out and how effectively we can roll it out to the field. If it's a single or a double, that may not be problematic. But at that point that someone says, yes, this is for us, then there would be a whole program based on rollout. So we need to have a meeting with all of the community organizations. There would be subscription documents for the different organizations, what's expected of you. You know, it's a very intense, management-intensive rollout concept. But I believe if we show the momentum in Montreal and Detroit, we will have no shortage of people interested.
But that's still not really, I understand the momentum among the agencies and the potential uploaders of data. I'm talking about, you know, 20-something that is maybe not connected to actually know that this app exists.
Sure. So this is our experience. PJ Library, us, J Family, J Baby, all of our programs. So the only way somebody could engage in a J Family program if we sign up to be part of the app will be through JLife. As a result, I mean, we're doing really, I think, really powerful work in that space. So Next Gen, these are other organizations, Hazone, et cetera, they're all bought in. So we should be able to get those people engaged.
One more question. You get to pick, because
I
I
do?
was mad at me.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I also have many, many questions. My question really is, I mean, when you started talking, I started thinking about, not like Open Table, because I look at Open Table as something different, but something like a Class Pass,
Okay.
right? Which is like a menu, and these are the places you can go take a class, you know, a fitness class in your community, pick this one, and then you can do a different one, and then you can do a different one. So my question is, how are you going to really measure success? And what kind of data are you going to be looking for to do that?
So imagine in Detroit, 46 community organizations sign on. They all agree to use JLife as their exclusive Eventbrite type application and market all their programs through that. The data is incredibly compelling. So if you're the org, you get all of your data non-anonymized, right? So you will control all the data for your program, but the app will collect the anonymized data as a group. So we're going to know incredible amounts of information over a very short period of time what Jews in our community are doing, what they're interested in. And you know, I always say this, if my JCC continues to communicate to my daughter the way they communicate to my father, we're going to lose them both. So what this app allows my daughter to do is says, I'm not interested in politics, or I am interested in politics. I'm interested in social justice, I'm interested in this and this. And when programs, great programs come up in the community related to social justice, she gets a push on her feed. She can sign up with one click. She can register or pay if it's a paid program with one click. And therefore, we engage with her in a more frictionless way. Where otherwise, she's like, what do you mean I got to enter my data again? I'm out, right? So my answer to you is the data is incredibly powerful and a little scary. There's going to be all sorts of rules of what you gain access to as your organizing entity and what data, like for example, JCCA could get incredible anonymized data about what people and what ages and what types of programs they're signing up for. I mean, that's incredibly powerful. And maybe, I'll just conclude by saying this, maybe the most exciting thing to me about this is you're getting all of these disparate organizations in a room, and they're collectively growing community through programming. And JCCs are the masters at that. I think it just puts us in the center of everything. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, so do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. All right, any other very quick questions? Uh-oh, yes.
To me, this is very exciting. There's a lot of plus. I just want to make sure that we understand the minus.
Right.
Okay? When we give our name to this, what is the minus? What is the downside? Have we thought about if it doesn't work out? And I'm going to assume it's going to work out, but when I look at something, I look at the pluses and then I look at the minuses. So I want to know, reputationally, risk-wise, what does this mean to us? It's not the $50,000,
Right.
because if we lose that, I mean, I don't like to lose money, but that's.
Right. Well, I think, if we want to think of ourselves as entrepreneurial and part of our platform and innovation, this is clearly something that fits right into there. And having been in startups before, a lot of them fail. Some do, some. And so I think that the fact that we get in on the ground floor, or maybe the first floor, because they already have 2 people doing it, and the fact that we have this access to this data is incredibly powerful if it works. If it doesn't, I think we actually get the reputation of, hey, we stepped out to actually provide resources for a potential innovating project that covers the entire Jewish community, and it's a positive, not a negative.
You say we got in the ground floor. What does that mean? We get 10% ownership?
No, we don't get any. Think of this as a Kickstarter campaign.
We're seeding it.
We're seeding it. We are granting them as a
We're
grantor.
saying we like this idea, we'd like to give you some support.
We're supporting
We're
it.
supporting the investigation of it, or we're.
Now, actually, the development of it, they're well past investigation and
Well, that's
development.
right.
And putting us at the table, which is.
And we'll be at the table up front with the advisory committee and so on moving forward. I don't want to get back into lots of questions again, only because we're supposed to be on break. But
Yes, I'm not ready to.
okay. No, vote hasn't happened yet. We have a motion and we have a second. And now we're discussing.
I'm just curious what the execs in the room say about it. Because I think they have a much better perspective in their.
It's a little uncomfortable for the proponent of this to be in the room while we're discussing the president.
No problem. I respect that totally.
Unless you want to know a con of it.
And you
Well,
can defend
but
me.
discussing the benefits.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Prior to a vote.
Eric,
To how this
Wait, okay.
meshes with affiliation with JCCA? Because it seems to me it could positively work against the concept of JCCs independently affiliating with the JCCA.
Well, I don't think that's going to be an issue, because we provide all sorts of other services that aren't being provided by this app. I mean, we're creating programming, we're creating all sorts of other services to our J's, we're providing leadership and vision. We have J response, which is clearly not something this app is going to cover. There's a lot of things that we do that are not there. What it does do is actually help create a community within the local community, which is something that I'm personally very excited about. And I think that also creates a larger community as well, as people visiting get used to using it and so on. So I find it positive. And again, I think our reputation as somebody who will step out in front and help fund these kind of projects is great for us, whether it works or it doesn't work. All right, what was the question you had before? Thanks, Sue. Suzanne, you had a, okay.
The power of organizations like Facebook is the phenomenal amount of personal data that they have. Who is actually going to own this data? In this case.
Right. I believe Detroit and Montreal ends up owning the database, but we all have access to it, to parts of it. That you have access to your data, particularly if it's your organization. You have access to the anonymized data if it isn't.
Yeah, can we hear from the execs?
Yes, the execs. Sorry,
I'm really excited about this, and when I read this proposal, I'm like, wow, what a resource, and I want to be in on it. And Mark and I were just talking, like, a risk is that it works and we're not in on it. You know, I'm proud of us if we do it and it doesn't work, but I think this has so much potential, and within my small community, but connecting to the greater community, I'm into this.
So we saw this proposal in St. Louis, and I agree with Ivy. I think there's a tremendous amount of upside potential. There are some significant concerns, like, you know, the cost of being a part of it. It's not free to the community, so you have to think about that. You also have to think about the number of organizations that participate. If it's just the JCC and nobody else in the community, you know, does it integrate with your systems? I mean, I know it's built on a Salesforce platform, but are you going to have to double enter everything? What happens to the current app that your J may or may not have? There are all kinds of practical issues that I think that J's, if we're going to invest, it would be nice if there was, and you know, $50,000 is a small amount relative to the $3 million that I think they're trying to raise, but it would be nice if we could understand some of these issues and how it would play out. And it would also be nice if JCCs across the community could kind of have a leg up on something. I mean, it would be nice to get something for our $50,000 investment, rather than just hand it back.
I can't speak specifically to the proposal. I can just speak to my knowledge of Brian Siegel as one of the, in my mind, one of the great thought leaders in the Jewish world. Scott Kaufman, who just retired from the Jewish Federation as exec for over a decade, is another one of the great thought leaders in the world. Entering this realm was purely to build Jewish community. And with the ties in with JCCA, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to consider investment. Thank you.
Michael? I like this idea. I just do have a question about data collection and privacy issues. I don't know the right answers there, but I just want to make sure that my assumption is that the right people are looking at it. It didn't really come up in the whole, we're going to protect the privacy of people. And as far as logging in, you know, I don't know even if it is a personal login that you would give in order to get all this information about the community.
Well, I think part of the reason of getting it now is that we get to help affect what those answers will be to those questions.
Okay, but the data collection privacy, I'm assuming.
No, I'm saying that's something that will actually be part of the table to talk about.
Okay.
So imagining this in the community, it's very positive. As a fiduciary of this organization, I don't feel like we've done our due diligence. Like, what do we actually, is there a written agreement that says what JCCA gets for this? What say do we have in the direction it goes? Everyone said we have a gazillion questions. It just seems like those questions should be answered before we make a decision.
What's the
From an exec standpoint, I think that this, again, as a board member, I think the decision that's being put on the table is, do we want to spend $50,000 to invest in an app to serve the Montreal and Detroit communities? Period. I mean, it may, over time, roll down to other communities, and over that time, after this is beta tested, there may be other kinds of JLife apps that may be out there. So for me, there's a lot, and I agree with Michael, there's a lot of unanswered questions. If I'm being asked to vote, I'm going to vote no right now, from a board member standpoint, because I just think it's too many questions unresolved at this point. Questions unanswered.
Can we hear from Durham?
So, look, first of all, I think all of the points that have been expressed in this room are legitimate, and the questions that are being raised by lay and professional members of this board are important, and we will continue to work through them. The bulk of the funding for bringing JLife to beta testing is coming both from Detroit and Montreal, and from additional sources, including a major commitment by the Crown Family Philanthropies out of Chicago. There is an expectation and an understanding that this is going to offer us a bold new opportunity to serve local constituents and capture information. I think what Brian was sharing with us is that we will be the owners of the information that relates to our programs, those things that happen under the auspice of a JCC, but we will get anonymized, meaning we won't get people's details, but we will get collective data about everything else that's happening in our community. Because we are the largest purveyor of programs and activities, it positions us to get remarkable insight into the broad community. I think for Gary and I, the thing that appealed to us the most is when we look at the things that our constituents, the JCCs, want us to be able to do to be more intelligent managers and users of information, we think back to things in which this organization and the field have invested dramatically more with very limited, if any, satisfaction. And we have been deferring the notion that we would make a new financial commitment to data and information until we had some responsible opportunities to proceed. And we see this as a very modest investment for a potential huge information play. And at the very least, and I'll confirm this with Brian Siegel momentarily, but at last check, we would be the only national organization at the table. The only one. And I think it goes to scope and breadth of our platform. I'm perfectly content to suggest that subject to our clarification around as many of these questions as we can, given the limited time frame, we could get a conditional commitment on the part of this board, and we'll pursue those things. But what we want to do is be mindful not to let the ship sail while we do diligence ad infinitum, and at the same time, I think, provide whatever we can in the way of confidence building satisfaction for this board, that we're not being led down a primrose path here. I don't see this as an investment in Montreal and Detroit. There was going to be a beta test site, so if it wasn't those two communities, it would be somewhere else, and we as a continental organization will be letting some community reap the benefit of the pilot. The fact that it's Montreal and Detroit, given the nature of who they are, and they're having already captured 90+% of the organizations in town to participate, means that it's a very fair and reasonable pilot laboratory in which to explore it. So I think it's more than that, even as I absolutely respect the diligence hesitations that have been raised here. So I hope that's helpful.
Does it strike you that it should be controlled by a national organization, by either JCCA or JAFTA, not a Toronto-Montreal partnership?
I don't think JCC Association or JFNA are ready to put up the funding that would be required in order to exercise that kind of authority.
No, but they're getting the money. So these two cities are finding ways to get the money in the same way you could.
Both of these communities have, I think, a very long-standing and marketable track record of being the major investors in continental or national systems, and therefore I think it's worthy of our trust that it would be led responsibly. Scott Kaufman, who Brian alluded to, has just stepped down after 10 years of doing, again, a remarkable job of a renaissance in Detroit after he's been through some tough years that Steve can relate to, has stepped down in order to lead this effort. He's not retired. He's not of retiring age, whatever that means these days. But he stepped over to bear responsibility for this because he was not prepared to allow it to be managed on behalf of the Detroit Federation off the corner of his desk. He chose to invest himself directly.
What's the timetable? Is there a timetable on?
They're moving. I believe, again, Brian's out of the room. We'll get clarification. I believe the beta testing is going to happen in 20. They're moving.
And so, what is the amount of money they need to do the beta testing, and how does that influence what we would do?
We're a very small stakeholder
sure.
in the $3 million. They're going to move with us or without us. The 50 was considered sufficient to be a credible part for us to have a seat at the table.
Well, the reason why I was asking is, there are so many questions. And if there was, do we have a month, do we have 2 months,
right,
to maybe get some answers to those questions and then maybe do a roll.
Could I suggest that maybe what we do is we give authority to the executive committee to finalize this. Well, so subject to the executive committee approving it, we'll go ahead with it. In the meantime, if you have questions, please email them in to me or whoever else. I can pick up somebody, and then we'll sit down with them and answer all those questions and get it out to everybody. And the executive committee can then decide if it's going to be, we'll look forward to it.
If I can refine that, let me suggest, I'm perfectly happy to come back to the executive committee for affirmation,
right,
but I want to move quickly. So if we're going to compile your questions, and we will make a fair attempt to answer as many of them as can be answered. It may be that in this a cycle of innovative entrepreneurial expansion of this initiative that we're not going to answer them all, and then you'll get to decide. In the absence of the answers to those questions, since we seem to feel insufficiently confident based on what we know so far, I'd like to turn this around over the next couple of weeks, maybe
Right.
before the end of January,
Right.
and make a decision to move on. I think it's responsible for them, and I think it's responsible for us to make that call. We don't have to do it, but again, it's a small, strategic action fund was created to do innovative things that would allow us to do things that we would otherwise never do. And this is a modest percentage of the remainder of that fund, which has already served a variety of purposes. I think we're holding this to a very high standard. I just want us to be mindful of the fact that this is intended to allow us to get out there and try things that otherwise would never have fallen within our bandwidth to do.
Just one weird thing that feels odd to me, which is they came to JCCA. How is JFNA not getting a seat at the table? If those are the two main kind of players in the Detroit.
I think they've talked to a lot of people.
Okay, so we don't know that JFNA is not at the table.
To my knowledge, we are the only continental organization that is involved, and the JFNA, in the midst of their own changes, is not in a position at the moment to involve themselves in this, or they've elected not to involve themselves.
If it works, they will. Right. So I would suggest that during this week, it's only Sunday, so maybe this week, if everybody has questions, please get them into us.
Not at the moment.
So we're investing in a JCC that's not part of JCC.
But we're not investing in Montreal.
I think that the important thing is that we are investing in a potential information platform that will raise all boats for the entire movement. God bless Montreal for deciding to put up in excess of $1 million in order to be involved. And I think if it works and we're there, it'll be another weight on the side of bringing them back into the fold. And we're working closely with Montreal right now. They're just not in at the moment.
All right, we're way beyond schedule here, so what I'd like to do again is suggest that subject to everybody getting all the questions in.
Can I just say, I hear people that have proponents for it and all the good reasons. I hear lots of questions and concerns. You get a little pamphlet, different things. And it's like you want everybody to kind of be on board and buying into this thing. So in doing the due diligence, $50,000, yeah, it's a small amount, but to say, that's it, $50,000 should be a value whether we voted formally in May, even, if it was brought back with true due diligence or communicated through. So I'm just wondering, to levy concerns, and then what discovery have we done of our own JCCs? Because I think some of JCCs around the country do probably have some apps, or to discover what are the things that they would want within the course of what they deliver. It's just my thoughts.
I don't dispute that, David, but we are holding this SAF request to a markedly higher standard than any of the other ones that we've done so far relative to the return on investment to individual JCCs or the comprehensive enthusiasm and understanding of everybody in the space. That's not to say it's not reasonable. I'm just saying at this modest level, it's a standard that we've not held ourselves to previously.
I would also suggest that waiting till May kind of makes the ship leave without us.
It may well.
There's a motion and everything.
There is a motion, there is a second.
So what's the motion?
The motion, if the maker would amend it, so the amendment, the motion would be that subject to the approval of the executive committee after due diligence done by the staff at JCCA, subject and with questions given to us by the field, that if the executive committee approves it, we will allocate the $50,000 from the SAF. Up to 50, well, no, it is $50,000.
Oh, it is $50,000.
Is there a second, does you accept it, second accept? Okay.
Okay, that's much better.
All right, call the question. We are calling the vote. So all in favor of that motion, please raise your hands. All opposed? Okay, passes by large majority. Thank you. And with that, we'll give you 10 minutes to go out and get a snack and use the restroom.